March 4, 1918, the Atlantic Ocean. An American Navy cargo ship, the USS Cyclops, nearly 542 feet long, was carrying more than 300 people on board. No one could have imagined that this would be their final voyage. No distress signal was ever recorded, no explosion was ever reported, not a single lifeboat was ever found, and then the USS Cyclops vanished from the face of the earth. More than a century has passed, yet the true fate of the USS Cyclops remains buried somewhere beneath the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. The United States Navy launched one of the largest search and investigation efforts of its time. Dozens of theories have been proposed, but even today, no expert can say with complete certainty what really happened to a ship of this size carrying more than 300 people. This is not just the story of a missing ship, it is one of the greatest unsolved disappearances in modern naval history. In 1918, the world was in the middle of the First World War. The Atlantic Ocean had become one of the most important supply routes on Earth. Every day, thousands of soldiers, supplies, fuel, food, and military equipment crossed these waters. During this time, the USS Cyclops was one of the largest cargo ships in the United States Navy. With a displacement of nearly 19,000 tons, it was considered a powerful and dependable vessel. Unlike a battleship, the USS Cyclops was not built for combat. Its primary mission was to transport heavy cargo across the ocean. In February 1918, the ship was assigned an important mission. It departed Brazil carrying a massive shipment of manganese ore, a mineral that was essential for producing high-quality steel during the war. At the time, this cargo was considered extremely valuable. Under the command of Captain George Worley, the USS Cyclops began its journey home. Along with its Navy crew, several passengers were also on board, bringing the total number of people to more than 300. For the first several days, everything appeared normal. The sea was calm and the ship remained on its planned course. However, during the voyage, some officers became concerned about a few issues. Historical reports suggest that one of the ship's engines had developed mechanical problems. Although the USS Cyclops was still fully operational, its maximum speed had been reduced. Some records also indicate that the manganese ore may not have been loaded evenly. If true, such an imbalance could have affected the ship's stability. At the time, no one imagined that these seemingly minor concerns could become part of one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. On March 3, 1918, the USS Cyclops arrived in Barbados. The ship stopped briefly to take on fuel and essential supplies. Some members of the crew even went ashore. Everything appeared completely normal. There were no reports of panic, no signs of an emergency, and no indication that the ship was in danger. After leaving Barbados, Captain Worley confirmed the next destination as Baltimore, Maryland. If everything had gone according to plan, the USS Cyclops should have reached the United States within a few days. But after departing Barbados, something changed. The ship continued on its journey and the radio operators were ready to carry out their routine communications. Then came silence. No distress signal, no emergency message, and no radio transmission of any kind. It was as if the USS Cyclops had simply disappeared into the silence of the Atlantic Ocean. At first, no one was overly concerned. The world was at war, and communication delays were common. Naval officials assumed bad weather might have interrupted radio contact. Others believed the ship had simply been delayed because of its engine problems. But the days passed, then weeks, and the USS Cyclops never reached its destination. Once it became clear that the ship had failed to arrive, the United States Navy launched a full-scale investigation. Ships traveling along the same route were questioned. Radio logs were examined. Patrol vessels searched the surrounding waters. But the more investigators searched, the deeper the mystery became. The United States Navy knew this was no ordinary missing ship. It quickly became one of the greatest unsolved cases in American naval history. Investigators reviewed every available report. Weather records were carefully examined. Radio logs were analyzed. Every known detail along the Cyclops' route was pieced together. But the more they investigated, the deeper the mystery became. The first theory focused on the weather. Some experts believed that the USS Cyclops may have been caught in a powerful Atlantic storm and sunk beneath the waves. But when official weather records from that period period were examined, no evidence was found of a storm severe enough to explain the complete disappearance of such a massive vessel without a single distress call. The weather certainly wasn't perfect, but it also wasn't extreme enough to fully explain what happened. Attention then shifted to the ship itself. Historical records indicate that one of the Cyclops' engines had already developed mechanical problems before the final voyage. Several reports also suggest that the manganese ore cargo may not have been evenly distributed. If thousands of tons of heavy cargo shifted to one side, it could have affected the ship's stability. Combined with the rough seas, an overloaded vessel could capsize within minutes. Today, many maritime historians consider this to be the most realistic explanation, but even this theory leaves one major question unanswered. If a ship of that size suddenly sank, where was the evidence? There was no floating debris, no lifeboats, and no cargo. Nothing. It was as if the Atlantic Ocean had swallowed the entire ship without leaving behind a single trace. Another theory pointed toward the First World War. In 1918, German U-boats were actively operating across the Atlantic. Some believed the USS Cyclops may have been torpedoed by an enemy submarine. After the war, German naval records were thoroughly examined, but no official document ever reported the destruction of the USS Cyclops. No German commander claimed responsibility, and no evidence was ever found to support the theory. Then there was Captain George Worley. Some former crew members had previously described him as unusually strict and at times unpredictable. A few historians have suggested that a critical decision made on the bridge may have placed the ship in danger, but there is no direct evidence to support that claim. Because everyone on board disappeared along with the ship, no one knows what truly happened during those final hours. As the years passed, another name became permanently linked to this mystery: the Bermuda Triangle. Since part of the Cyclops' route passed through that region, countless books, documentaries, and television shows connected its disappearance to the famous legend. Alien theories, supernatural explanations, and mysterious forces soon became part of the story. But the reality is very different. To this day, there is no scientific evidence proving that the Bermuda Triangle possesses any mysterious or paranormal properties. That is why most maritime historians continue to classify the disappearance of the USS Cyclops as a historical mystery, not proof of the supernatural. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this case so fascinating. Every theory answers a few questions while creating even more. The weather explains some details, but not the complete absence of debris. Mechanical failure seems possible, but it doesn't explain the total silence. Enemy attack remains a possibility, yet no supporting records have ever been found. Every explanation leaves behind another unanswered question. Today, more than a century has passed. Advanced sonar systems now explore the ocean floor. Autonomous underwater vehicles can reach depths that were once impossible for humans. Satellite technology has transformed the way we study our planet. And yet, despite all of our modern technology, the exact wreck of the USS Cyclops has never been confirmed. That alone makes this mystery even more extraordinary. Perhaps the ship still rests somewhere deep beneath the Atlantic, hidden in a place no expedition has reached. Perhaps one future mission will finally uncover the truth, or perhaps the ocean will keep this secret forever. It is entirely possible that at this very moment, deep within the silent darkness of the Atlantic Ocean, the USS Cyclops still lies where it disappeared, with more than 300 souls waiting for a final chapter that history has never been able to tell. We have explored space. We have walked on the moon. We have looked farther into the universe than ever before, yet after more than 100 years, we still cannot fully explain what happened to one ship on our own planet. And perhaps that is why the USS Cyclops is more than just a missing vessel. It is a reminder that even today, there are mysteries on Earth that science is still trying to understand, and until the day its true fate is finally revealed, the USS Cyclops will remain one of the greatest unsolved maritime mysteries in history.